The night I asked my husband to leave our home, I was certain about one thing. Our marriage was over. I stood at the front door, with tears running down my face, his suitcase beside my feet. He looked at me and whispered, "Please, Emma, don't end 10 years because of one stupid mistake." I looked directly into his eyes, and I said, "It may have lasted only a few seconds for you, but I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life." Then I closed the door. But what I didn't know that night was that almost 1 year later, I would be standing in front of the same man again, and he would ask me one question that would force me to choose between my pride and the person I still loved. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Emma. I was 34 years old when this happened. My husband's name was Daniel. We had been together for almost 11 years, and we had an 8-year-old daughter named Lily. From the outside, our life probably looked ordinary. Daniel worked hard. I worked from home. Every morning, we argued about who had forgotten to buy milk. Every evening, Lily somehow found a reason not to go to bed. We weren't a perfect family, but we were happy. At least, I thought we were. Daniel was not the kind of husband I ever imagined would betray me. He remembered our anniversary. He made pancakes for Lily on Sundays. Whenever I was sick, he made terrible soup and proudly acted as if he were a chef. And most importantly, I trusted him. Completely. That was why one Saturday morning changed everything. The night before, Daniel had gone to a reunion party for one of his old college friends. I was supposed to go with him, but I had a terrible headache. "Stay home," he told me. "I probably won't be late." He kissed my forehead and left. At around midnight, he sent me a message. "Still here. Don't wait for me. Love you." I replied with a heart. Then I went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, Daniel was already home. But something felt strange. Usually, he would be drinking coffee, checking his phone, or complaining about his headache after a late night. Instead, he was sitting alone at the kitchen table. No coffee, no phone, just silence. I walked into the kitchen. "Are you okay?" He looked at me, then looked away. That was the first moment I became afraid. Not because I knew what had happened, but because after 11 years together, I knew Daniel's face. And that morning, his face was hiding something. "Emma," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." My stomach tightened. "What?" He rubbed his hands together. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he finally looked at me. "Sophie was at the party last night." I knew the name immediately. Sophie was his college girlfriend. They had dated years before Daniel met me. I had never been jealous of her. She belonged to his past. Or at least, I thought she did. "And?" I asked. Daniel took a breath. We talked for a while. I waited. "And?" She was upset about something. We went outside where it was quieter. My heart began beating faster. "Daniel, what happened?" He closed his eyes, and then he said the sentence that changed my marriage. "She kissed me." For a moment, I actually felt relieved. She kissed him. Fine. Maybe he pushed her away. Maybe this was simply an uncomfortable story he wanted to tell me because he respected me. So I asked the obvious question. "What did you do?" Daniel said nothing. That silence told me more than any words could. "Daniel." He looked at me. I kissed her back. I stared at him. The kitchen suddenly felt very small. "You what?" It was only for a moment. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes pain is so shocking, your body doesn't know what else to do. You kissed your ex-girlfriend? I had been drinking. She came close, and I just... Stop. Emma, please. Don't blame the alcohol. I'm not blaming. Yes, you are. I could feel tears in my eyes now. You were drunk, Daniel. You weren't unconscious. He stood up. It meant nothing. And those words somehow made me even angrier. Nothing? I looked at him and said, if it meant nothing, why were you willing to risk everything for it? He had no answer. I went upstairs. Daniel followed me. Emma, please listen to me. But I wasn't listening anymore. I pulled one of his travel bags from the closet and started putting his clothes inside. What are you doing? You're leaving. His face changed. Emma, come on. No, we have a daughter. And? You're throwing away our entire family because of one kiss? I stopped. I turned around, and I said something I still remember clearly. No, Daniel. I'm not the person who brought another woman into our marriage. You did that. He became silent. I carried the bag downstairs. Our daughter was staying with my sister that weekend. To this day, I'm grateful she wasn't there. At the door, Daniel tried one more time. I love you. Those 3 words used to make me feel safe. That day, they made me angry. You loved me last night too, I said. Apparently, that wasn't enough. And I closed the door. For the first few minutes, I felt powerful. Then I collapsed onto the floor and cried. Because the truth was painful. I still loved him. That was the problem. If I had stopped loving Daniel immediately, leaving would have been easy. But betrayal doesn't always destroy love. Sometimes it leaves love exactly where it was and destroys the trust underneath it. And love without trust feels like standing inside a beautiful house while wondering if the floor will collapse. Daniel called me 17 times that weekend. I answered none of them. Then came the messages. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Please don't tell Lily yet. Let me explain. I turned my phone off. Then something happened that made everything worse. Daniel's mother called me. She already knew. Emma, she said, Daniel told me everything. I remained quiet. He is devastated. So am I. I know, but marriages survive mistakes. Maybe. You have a child. Think about Lily. That sentence made me angry. People always said that. Think about your daughter, as if staying in an unhappy marriage was automatically better for a child. I am thinking about Lily, I said. I want her to grow up knowing that love should come with respect. Daniel's mother became quiet. Then she said something softer. He has never done anything like this before. I know. He told you himself. You never would have known. I know that too. And that was what made everything complicated. Daniel could have hidden it. He could have come home, showered, smiled at me, and continued our life. But he didn't. He told me the truth the next morning. Did that make his betrayal acceptable? No, but it planted one uncomfortable question in my mind. Could someone hurt you badly and still be genuinely sorry? 3 days later, Daniel appeared at my door. He wasn't carrying flowers. He wasn't carrying gifts. He simply stood there. He looked exhausted. Can I have 5 minutes? I wanted to say no. Instead, I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Daniel looked at me. I'm not going to make excuses anymore. I crossed my arms. I was drinking, he continued, but I knew what I was doing. For the first time, he wasn't blaming Sophie. He wasn't blaming the party. He wasn't blaming alcohol. "I could have stepped away," he said. "I didn't." I felt my throat tighten. "And I have to live with that." He looked at the ground. "I'm sorry." I waited. Then he said, "I don't expect you to forgive me." That surprised me. Until then, everyone seemed to be asking me to forgive him. Daniel finally wasn't. He continued, "But please, don't stop me from being Lily's father." "I won't." His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Then he turned to leave. I should have felt relieved. Instead, watching him walk away hurt more than I expected. The next few months were strange. Daniel rented a small apartment nearby. Every Saturday morning, he picked Lily up, and every Saturday evening, he brought her home exactly when he promised. He never used her to send messages to me. He never told her our problems were my fault. He never arrived unexpectedly. If he wanted to talk to me, he asked first. And slowly, I started noticing something. Daniel had stopped trying to convince me that he had changed. He simply started changing. He stopped drinking completely. He began seeing a therapist. He apologized to my parents. He gave me access to anything I wanted to see. His phone, his messages, his plans. But I didn't check them because I knew something important. If I had to become a detective to stay married, I didn't want that marriage. Months passed. Then, one evening, Lily asked a question I had been dreading. She was lying in bed when she looked at me and said, "Mommy, does Daddy not love us anymore?" My heart broke. I sat beside her. "Daddy loves you very much." "Then why doesn't he live here?" I had rehearsed explanations in my mind dozens of times, but suddenly, none of them felt right. So I simply said, "Sometimes adults hurt each other, and sometimes they need time apart to understand what happened. Are you angry with Daddy?" I paused. "Yes." "Do you hate him?" That question caught me. I looked at Lily. "No." "Do you still love him?" I didn't answer. She was only 8. She didn't understand why that question was so difficult. But that night, after she fell asleep, I asked myself the same thing. Did I still love Daniel? The answer was yes. And strangely, that frightened me more than anger. Because anger was simple. Love was complicated. Almost 10 months had passed when Daniel came to pick Lily up one Sunday afternoon. She ran upstairs because she had forgotten her jacket. For the first time in weeks, Daniel and I were standing alone together. He looked different, calmer, maybe a little older. "Emma?" "Yes?" "Can I ask you something?" My body immediately became tense. He noticed. "You can say no." I waited. He said, "Do you think there is any chance for us?" There it was, the question I knew would eventually come. I looked away. "I don't know." He nodded slowly. Then something surprised me. He didn't argue. He didn't say, "But I've changed." He didn't remind me of our marriage. He simply said, "Okay." Then Lily came running downstairs. Daniel smiled at her. "Ready?" "Yes." And they left. But his question stayed with me. Was there any chance for us? For weeks, I thought about it. I remembered the kiss, but I also remembered 11 years before the kiss. I remembered him holding my hand during Lily's birth. I remembered him sitting beside my hospital bed when I was sick. I remembered Sunday breakfast, family holidays, stupid arguments, private jokes, the ordinary little things that make up a marriage. And then another question entered my mind. Was forgiveness the same as weakness? For months, I had believed that taking Daniel back would mean I had no self-respect. But slowly, I realized something. Leaving someone can require strength. But sometimes, so can choosing to rebuild with someone who has genuinely changed. That doesn't mean everyone deserves another chance. Some people apologize because they are afraid of consequences. Some apologize and repeat the same behavior. Some promise change, but never change anything. Daniel hadn't asked me to trust his words anymore. He had spent almost a year giving me reasons to trust his actions. Still, I wasn't ready to simply let him move back home. So one evening, I called him. He answered, almost immediately. "Emma, can you come over tomorrow?" There was silence. "Is everything okay?" "Yes." Another pause. "Okay." The following evening, Daniel arrived. I asked him to sit at the kitchen table, the same table where he had confessed almost 1 year earlier. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "I forgive you." Daniel's eyes filled with tears, but before he could speak, I raised my hand. "I'm not finished." He nodded. "Forgiving you doesn't mean I forgot." "I know. And it doesn't mean everything goes back to normal tomorrow." "I understand. If we try again, we're starting something new. We're not pretending the old marriage never broke." Daniel swallowed. "Okay. We go slowly. Counseling. Honesty. No pressure." He nodded. "Anything." "And Daniel?" "Yes?" "If you ever betray my trust again." He looked directly into my eyes. "I know." I shook my head. "No, I need you to hear me say it." He waited. "There won't be a third chance." Daniel nodded. "I understand." Then he whispered, "Are you saying there's a second one?" For the first time in almost a year, I smiled at him. "A small one." He started crying. Then I started crying. And somehow we both laughed. At that exact moment, Lily walked into the kitchen. She looked at us. "Why are both of you crying?" Daniel quickly wiped his face. "Your mother made me cry." I stared at him. Lily put her hands on her hips. "Mom!" And for the first time in months, our kitchen was filled with laughter again. Daniel did not move home that night or the next week. We took our time. We went to counseling. We had uncomfortable conversations. I asked questions I was afraid to ask. He answered them. Some days were good. Some days, I suddenly remembered everything and became angry again. Healing wasn't a straight line, but eventually, I stopped looking at Daniel and seeing only the worst thing he had ever done. I began seeing the whole person again. Several months later, he moved back home. Our marriage is different now. In some ways, less innocent, but in other ways, more honest. I used to think strong relationships were relationships where nothing went wrong. Now I understand that real relationships are more complicated. Trust can break in seconds. Repairing it can take months or years, and sometimes it cannot be repaired at all. Forgiveness is a personal choice. Walking away can be the right choice. Trying again can also be the right choice. What matters is whether the person who hurt you simply says, "I've changed," or whether their actions quietly prove it. I gave Daniel another chance. Not because his betrayal didn't matter, not because I was afraid of being alone, and not simply because we had a daughter. I chose him again because after nearly a year apart, I finally believed I was choosing a different version of the man who had once broken my heart. And maybe that's what a real second chance should be. Not returning to the relationship you had before, but deciding whether two changed people can build something better from what remains. Now, I have a question for you. If your partner kissed someone else once, confessed the next morning, spent a year proving they had changed, and asked for another chance, would you forgive them? Or would that one moment be enough to end the relationship forever? Tell me what you would do in the comments, because I have a feeling people are going to have very different answers.